So for the purposes of transitioning to a healthy divorce, one thing I like to tackle with clients when they first come in is there's this old approach to divorce and like limiting negative beliefs around it that if you're getting a divorce, it's a bad thing and you've somehow failed as an individual or in your relationship. And I'm here to tell you it does not have to be that way. I like to reframe this with my clients. You know, it's two adults that have realized you've just outgrown each other and you both realize you would be happier apart. And that's actually a strength. And just because you're divorced doesn't mean that it's the end of your family unit. A lot of my clients have successfully transitioned into great co-parenting and family relationships after divorce.
Seek professional guidance. Enlist the help of professionals to guide you through this process. Retain a family law attorney that can guide you through the legal aspects of the divorce. Know that a good family law attorney will be able to give you a bird's eye view of what the process will look like, be able to fully understand the emotional transition you are going through, and just be really communicative regarding your goals as well as what your expectations are in the divorce. I always like to ask my clients how they know that the outcome of their divorce will be a successful one, because it really sets your expectations on the likelihood of that desired outcome. I always recommend that my clients seek counseling or therapy and just be open to finding a neutral third party who is there to help you process these changes and just frame them in a very meaningful way.
So some of the great things that I've used before in the past, I've mentioned a few today. Your breath. I would say the breath is the greatest tool that we have, because we always have breath going to stay as part of staying in the body. So we all have access to it regardless of where we are from a physical limitation point of view. Breath technique, which there's many techniques around that. Having a physical yoga practice, which I've mentioned before. There's specific yoga asanas, or we can also say postures. Asanas mean postures that will help remedy certain things such as stress, anxiety, even headaches, believe it or not. There's also affirmations, and affirmations is really another great concept for working with mind training. There's thought awareness, and believe it or not, something that's often not talked about, silence. That was one of my most favorite practices, which we can have a whole discussion on silence. So those are just a few examples that really I have found to be very supportive for me to be in a space of balance. And oftentimes I also like to say, be in a space of non-reaction. So much of what ends up happening oftentimes, whether it's what we're talking about today, people experiencing divorce or people experiencing some traumatic situation or negative experience at work, the negative thoughts happen and then we start to react. We start to create this environmental experience that really doesn't support us having balance. So really, yoga brings us to also a space of non-reaction.
So there's a lot of things you can do, right, to help your kiddo navigate this experience. And I think one of the most important goals is create and establish a sense of stability and predictability, helping them know what's next, what to expect, to calm their nerves, to help them decrease that anxiety around the transitions and the unknowns. They can do a lot with the routines and rituals. We talked about that earlier, but really making sure that everyone's on the same page, that we have routines in place that the child can count on. So keeping a time schedule, having a weekly planner so they know, what days they're going to be going to the other parent's house, what activities they have coming up. For kiddos that age, those visual calendars are really helpful. So, doing a little bit of prep the night before, saying, tomorrow is this day and this is what we can expect. Also making sure that that things are prepared and packed the night before, so the morning doesn't feel rushed and chaotic. So there's that stability in their routine. There's some calm around their routine. Also thinking about rituals. Would it be helpful for your child to have the exact same bedtime routine, have certain books that they read, or discussing and letting them have a voice in what that routine and that ritual might look like for them, what they think would be helpful. A lot of kiddos really do well with transitional objects. So that could be a blanket or a picture, a toy. It could be something that they choose that they can bring, between the homes that gives them that sense of stability, security, something that becomes really predictable for them, that they have that with them, something to kind of soothe. The other piece of it is really reassurance, reminding that child that they are loved, that you are there to listen, you are there to answer questions, you're going to support them as they navigate this big change. Expressing that you're committed to making this new family arrangement work, and you're really going to help them navigate it. So really just kind of reassuring that you're on their team, that they can trust you, that they can come to you for support, that it's okay to have these big feelings. Ideally, if a parent can do this cooperative co-parenting, that would be fantastic. We know that's not always the case, but it's certainly something we want to strive to do if possible. This might require some compromising between the two parents, in terms of scheduling and different activities and things, but really just having this cohesive, united front that we are your parents and we're here to do what's best for you, so that the child can really trust that the parents have their best interest in mind. A couple things that you want to avoid. So, the tug of war that often happens, not necessarily intentionally, but the putting the child in this position to choose between parents. Do you want to go here or here? Having too many choices, where the child feels like they have to kind of step in and be the adult to mediate between the parents, that can be really, really stressful and anxiety provoking for the child. You certainly want to avoid blaming. So using language where the child feels that you're blaming the other parent. When parents share overtly or covertly that other parent is to blame for the divorce, the child might feel anger or guilt or confusion. They might have anger toward that parent. That can result in an issue with the attachment with that parent. They can feel confused about how to connect with that parent. That the certain parent caused all of this to happen. It creates a really distressing experience for the child when they don't know, when someone's assigning blame and fault for something like this. You certainly want to avoid the name calling and the put downs. That can be really, really harmful for the child, to be in a space where they're hearing that language and talking poorly about the other parent, who they, love and are spending time with and have a relationship with. So if possible, the parents want to really keep a neutral, cooperative stance. This allows the child to feel love. It allows them to feel attached to both parents, and it doesn't disrupt those alliances. It can be really difficult for the child to transition between the homes. They feel sometimes that they need to align with whichever parent they're in the space with. So, for example, when they go to one parent's house and that parent is feeling really sad or overwhelmed or angry, that child feels often that they need to align with that parent and also be angry and sad. And so they really struggle to kind of process and identify their own feelings, because they're feeling they need to support the parent and be aligned with what they're experiencing, which can be really confusing when they go to the other person, their other parent, and those feelings or their response to this divorce might be completely different. So you have this kiddo that's navigating between two homes and two completely different responses to the process, two completely different sets of emotions, and they're going to feel very confused and overwhelmed with how they're really feeling. So it's really helpful to try to have that neutral stance, that cooperative stance, the co-parenting when possible. That's really going to set that kiddo up to transition in a healthy way.